Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name is Helen Webster and with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our intriguing guest today is
Neil. So this is Neil Meekin, and we will find out loads more about Neil as we go on through the show. So massive thank you to Neil for giving us time. Neil is actually in Ireland at the moment.
I didn't know that, Neil.
I'm in the ancestral lands. Yeah, well, you do now, Sandra. Yeah, I come over quite a bit since I got back from, well, I'll talk about New Zealand, but since I've been back, I've been coming over loads, just exploring my ancestry and stuff. But yeah, I've got myself a nice girlfriend here as well, so it's all good.
Whereabouts are you in Ireland?
I'm in Louth, so near Dundalk, just over the border.
Okay. We'll find
Lovely. Yeah, we'll find out loads more about that. But first, we shout out to the kids, any little people who've done amazing things this week. Do you want to give a shout out? Go on, Neil, you go first.
Oh, was it for all of us? Go on, you go first. I don't want to hog the limelight.
No, you hog away while we think. Go on.
So I don't want to be biased, but my godson, 14, Finley McCourt, he's only just got into athletics. He never did it before, and he's just winning all like major competitions, and he smashed it at the weekends and won the 800 meters by a country mile. So yeah, I'm dead proud of him. Just keep up the great work.
Amazing. I love it when they just do something not the bossa.
Yeah.
What about next? What have you got?
Okay, so I'm going to shout out massively to all of the little people who are going to Rice Lane Salvation Army like holiday summer camp. So lots of the summer camps have started. We were there last week with them, but we were there this week with them with Whack-It Ball, and it was the cutest thing ever because there's a little boy there. And his sister, he's got like additional needs, and his sister like really looks after him. She's gorgeous. And when I walked in, he just run over and gave me the biggest love. And I was just like, oh, that's just amazing. So it was gorgeous. So big shout out to all of them. And his little sister, she's younger than him, but she looks after him and she's amazing. She does just like, she's dead caring and stuff. But yeah, so big shout out. And there's lots of holiday camps and half-funded camps going on at the moment. So shout out to all the kids going and having amazing, amazing memories.
Can I just ask something there? It's interesting because you said giving somebody a love. Is that just a Liverpool thing where we say to give someone a love is a hug? Do you think anywhere else would understand what you were saying there?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe. So yeah, so to give somebody a little love is to give somebody a hug or a squeeze, isn't it? And it could be.
That's valid. Because we even have someone, Tom in New Orleans, watches us. We have sometimes Don in Australia catches in New Zealand. He's in New Zealand. He comes up later. There's all different people who watch it. So well done. It's a good explanation. Yeah.
So we'll ask people then: is a love a Liverpool thing, or do other people around the country know of or done it? That could be a nice little question. Now, thanks, Neil. Hey, what about you, San? What little people are you shouting out to?
Not that little, the 14, although they are quite petite. I'm giving a shout out to Amaya and a Noah, who are originally from Ecuador but live in Spain now, and they've been over here for a month, and I've been teaching them nearly every morning for 3 hours before we've done 3.5 weeks, or it'll be 3 weeks on Friday. I've lost count, and we're going into next week just a day. And then they fly back, and you know when you teach them one every single day for a miss them when they go. So shout out to them because they've just come on so much with their English. I'm delighted. It helps I speak Spanish. It makes it easier, but it's just been brilliant. So they're doing really, really well.
Amazing.
So shout out to them.
So Rebecca Stockdale's listening, and she says she's a southerner and she only heard it in Liverpool.
I've never heard it. Well, outside Liverpool, I don't think. But I've always said it though. I've always said it a lot.
I've heard it for years, you know, Sandra, because I like when I lived in New Zealand for years, I've never ever heard say like give somebody a love, but it was like when I grew up, like my nana always give me a love, or my mum would always give me a love, and it's a hug, but I've never ever heard it like said anywhere else. Like now that you said it, you'd probably give me a proper flashback there to growing up.
Oh, little memories. Boss. Okay, what is your success this week personally for you? Something cool that's happened to you personally. Do you want to go first, Neil?
No, Sandra, go first. Let me percolate on that one.
Go first, Neil. I've got to think about that. You're so well prepared on this show.
I've got mine written down.
Go on, then you go.
Go on, Neil.
I'll go. So this, I'll probably say one of the the main success for me this week is getting my family constellations workshop sorted for the start of October, because it hasn't really existed in Liverpool before, and there's been a lot of preparation to go into. So that's now happening and booked, and I'm bringing my teacher over from Dublin, who's going to be with me for a couple of days at the start of October. So yeah, that's been a success for me to get that initiated.
I am dead excited about this. It's unbelievable. So Neil and I spoke about this, and it's unbelievable. And so we will find out loads more about it, but it's like the coolest thing ever.
Brilliant.
Okay. So I've got 2 little successes.
Go on,
my first one is I met Ashley on I met her on Thursday in secret, and then I met her again on Sunday. So Big Help Ballroom, who Big Help Project, who were doing the Big Help Ballroom, were on our show. Fran was talking about it. And the lovely Ashley has Down syndrome, and she is going to be dancing with a professional dancer called Helen. But Helen lives in Halifax. So for her to come over is quite a long way, you know, and she also works for the NHS, and she's got a job and everything like that. So I am going to be helping out with dancing with Ashley in Liverpool, so we can do some little training and bits and pieces and learn the routine and things. And we met on Sunday, and we all met together, and it was just amazing. So I'm dead excited about that.
Awesome.
So that's cool. But my biggest
go on.
No, go on.
Fair though, because it's the volunteers, aren't they? Isn't that because of the girl because she's all the way over the other side of the Pennines to come and do that for the event?
And her professional dance partner is a lad called Simon, who lives in Manchester, and he's dancing with somebody in so they're coming over from Manchester and Halifax to train with people, but they've both got jobs, so you know they're fitting in around working and everything else. So the dedication that they have is amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So John Howie's listening, and he says, "Hi, ladies and Neil." So hi, John. Yeah. As well. So my second success is I dusted off my tennis racket today.
How dusty was it?
Very. I haven't played for about 10 years. I haven't played for 10 years. I played today 3 till 5. So because of my age this year, I am allowed to play for the Merseyside Vets. So I went to the Vets tennis. Once you're 50, you can go and play for the Vets. So in December, I qualify. So they've let me come in a little bit early. And it was just, but some really good standard of tennis. There's some county players who I used to play with when I was younger. So it was lovely. So I had a lovely afternoon, and the weather held out. So it was quite good. So massive shout out to all of them. So thanks for, dusted the tennis racket off, and it was really, I'm only playing social. I'm not going back to league tennis. I'm just playing social. So it was quite nice.
Good on you, Helen. Good on you.
Yes, of course. It was ace. What about you, Sam?
9 little ones. So, well, last week we taught for a group we've not taught before. So it was a brand new group bringing people over. It was a bit last minute. So we did 3 days over in Cheshire, near Helsby, somewhere in this hall. And we did, we just taught 3 mornings, English to Spanish kids, to a brand new group. So the morning people are fitted in the afternoon, and it all worked. But it was like, the logistics doing that. So I was quite pleased about that. That was all good and everything. And then, but the big success is I got the giant mirror put up where I wanted it today. Chris, the handyman, is ace. So he's got loads of stuff. He's really good, and he's meticulous, and he has everything perfect. So I was really happy. So I've moved everything round. I've moved me big pictures round and stuff, and I've got minis, and I'm happy with everything. I'm happy with the way the house was going and everything. So that's really cool. Little thing. Yeah. So there we go.
Brilliant. Okay. So we have a new sponsor, and we've got Corporate Connections as sponsoring us our show for this month. So massive thank you to Corporate Connections for sponsoring us for this show. And what happens is that the money goes into, so Sandra and I don't get paid for this. The money goes in, we pay for like the StreamYard and all the other bits and pieces, and then we'll make a donation, or we'll do something for somebody, like a little somebody who's a success in our city. So that's what it's for. So cool. So we played this or that. So we'll ask you, do you like this or do you like that?
Okay.
All right.
Go for it.
So I'll ask you and Sandra.
Okay.
In the theme of corporate connections is people connecting together.
I hope you're not going to ask what I'm going to ask. Go on.
Oh. Would you rather
Oh.
speak on a telephone call or a face-to-face meeting? Neil.
Face-to-face meeting all the day, you just can't replace it, Helen. Do you know what I mean? Can't replace it.
San?
Face-to-face, 100%.
Yeah, and I'm face-to-face 1,000,000%. Yeah. Cool.
1,000,000%. That's a lot of percent, Helen.
I know.
A big percent.
Big, massively huge, yeah.
Percent, yeah.
Go on, Sam.
Okay, so I was going to say, in the theme of our sponsor, Corporate Connections, I was going to say, would you rather meet people in a networking situation? So people who are in business often get work through meeting other people, etc. Would you rather to go somewhere where you just chat around and meet people and mingle, or where you sit at a table in a room and it's all very structured?
It's interesting because I did that. I got that invite from you to go to BNI and not that long ago, and I always find it's a bit better for me, a little bit structured, because you can bounce around a little bit too much when it's just a meet and mingle. You sort of get lost in the crowd or whatever. So I think sitting at a table with somewhere that's been a bit curated, I find that a lot better, you know?
Yeah. And I'm the same. I think it's more focused, because I think if there's a room full of people, I just see somebody that I know and I go and talk to them. And then we just carry on talking, and then you've missed the opportunity of meeting lots of people. What about you, Sam?
If you know everybody, though, that's maybe a little bit different. You bounce around everybody.
We know a lot. But structured, definitely. And within that type of thing, there's all different types of events, aren't there? And, you know, like, there's like BNI, like you said, there's loads of different networking all over the city. And the Corporate Connections it's a lot smaller, a lot intimate. So there's just a few select people, but it's tight. It's a very good group. So probably sitting down and structured, definitely.
Very good. Very good. Okay. Totally off topic now. Okay. In the morning, would you rather have porridge and fruit, or like a cooked breakfast, Neil?
Oh, Jesus Christ. These are big questions. It depends how I feel. I'd probably say in the winter, I like porridge and fruit. But I do like a cooked breakfast, but I'm vegetarian, do you know what I mean? So what I've been having here, I've been having avocado on toast.
Lovely. Smashed
morning.
Smashed avocado.
Smashed avocado. Yeah, with crispy kale. It was amazing. Yeah.
Go on, Sam.
Oh, it was little. Yeah, lush.
Oh, for the level.
I know. Go on, Sam.
So like Neil, in the winter, I'd much rather have hot porridge. And Neil, I have chocolate porridge.
Oh, dear.
You put chocolate in, or do you buy chocolate porridge?
No, I put chocolate in it.
Right. Big question. What chocolate do you put in?
What's available. So it could be like chocolate or anything. Any chocolate will do. Sometimes I'll put, if I'm not having chocolate, I'll have a little bit of honey in or something. I'll do it with cocoa and a bit of honey, things like that. But I do like a cooked breakfast, but we only have it as a treat at the weekend. And now I've got it down to a minimum. As Uncle Ron knows, I'm on my journey, aren't I? And even if I only lose £1 a week, I'm playing the long game. As I said, I'll be falling down the grid soon. People will have to help me. Fly away. I'll be like Kate Moss. So I'm just having a minimal cooked breakfast now on a Sunday, like a little bit of food.
Yeah.
And I'm doing well. I'm really happy. I've cut out snacks, which is the main thing.
Brilliant. Well done.
Well done.
I'm a porridge person, but I've just got into chai porridge, so I'm making chai porridge or chai porridge, chai pudding, whatever people call it.
I like the overnight oats, though. I really like overnight oats with the fruit in. That's good as well.
Yeah. Cool. Go on, San, your go.
Okay, then. Would you rather read? Okay, if you were reading a novel, would you rather read a classical novel? Okay. Uncle Ron, don't overdo it. I know I'll be like Lena Zavaroni. Uncle Ron, you'll know that. So, would you rather read a classical novel or a modern book, something written recently in the last 10 years? If it was a novel.
Oh, Jesus Christ. It's interesting because I don't really read that much fiction. I read a lot. I mean, I've always got 4 books on the go. I think there's going to be a period soon where I'll start to get into the classics like your Charles Dickens and stuff like that, some of the classic literature. But like, yeah, fiction-wise, I'm just about to start reading Brave New World. If you're familiar with Brave New World,
All right.
Aldous Huxley. Anyway, well, some people who will listen might know, but yeah, I'd probably say a bit of both, to be honest. That's allowed.
No, you've got to read one for the rest of your life.
Desert Island books, just take one. I'd take the classics.
I'd take the classics if I was on a desert island. But I do like a bit of a trashy, not having to think novel.
Like Mills and Boon, you mean?
Yeah.
I think they make Mills and Boon. They don't have to nowadays, do they?
No.
That exists.
Rebecca Stockdale says Brave New World is a belter.
Brave New was a belter. She sounds proper scout. I know Becca. Hello, Rebecca. Nice that you're here. Do you know what I'm about to start to get into? And I've asked my ma to go on. My ma loves charity shops, so I've got her to go on a mission to get me. There's a famous Liverpool, or I don't think she was from Liverpool originally. Her name's Helen Forrester.
We've all got them all. Everyone's
Penny across the Mersey, is it?
I haven't got any of them.
Someone's across the Mersey. Someone's across the Mersey.
Horses are Liverpool, but everyone's. My mum's probably got them all for you. Don't worry. Yeah. Rebecca said, "Hello, mate."
Yeah. I remember reading them when I was younger, and then the Royal Court, I think, had a play on, and we went to the Royal Court to see the play.
Well, they're doing them by the Waters of Liverpool's coming on again.
Oh.
Yeah. Tuppence to Cross the Mersey, I absolutely loved. I read it when I was like at school. I just loved it. So if I had to pick one, William Boyd's my favourite author, who's a modern author. But if I had to pick, definitely classics, because not necessarily Charles Dickens, but he's not my fave. But you can also have foreign literature and translated into English as well. So there's all things like Les Miserables, all of those books and everything translated. So you can get English versions of all of them. So definitely the classics.
Yeah.
I love them. I really
think we're all up on that. Cool. Okay, Neil, last one from me. Would you rather go to an exercise class, like a group session, or would you rather train on your own in a gym?
With a group all day. Like, I'm not saying I'm lazy, but like, you're so much more accountable when you're in a group. So I've been addicted to spin. I used to hate it. Like about a month ago, I started doing spin classes in the group, and it's like dead addictable. Like, I've been loving it. Yeah. But you're just as better as a group. There's more energy in the room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What about you, San?
Right. Okay. There's criteria here. A group definitely, but dimly lit and I'm at the back. No one can be close enough that, like, so say it was spin and someone's sweat flew on me, I'd have to leave. That can't happen. Okay. I like the idea. So if I go to I like the girly stuff and all the aerobics and stuff like that, I'd have to be at the back. There's got to be distance between me and the next person, so I don't feel heat off them or moisture or anything. That's that. But a group class, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm a group class. I've just done a new class called Blaze, and it's like a high intensity, full on, and it's amazing. So yeah, I've done it twice, and I'm like addicted to it now. Yeah, because you just go in, smash it, and go. Blaze. It's so you do 3 minutes on the treadmill, 3 minutes on the weights, 3 minutes on the bag. So you like combat fighting on the bag, and then you have a minute off, and then you do 3 rounds of that. But there's like all different criteria when you're on it. But it's really, really good. It's high intensity. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's good. It is good. It's really, really good. Cool. Right, Stan, your very last go, and then it's over to Neil.
My very last one, super fast. Okay. Neil, would you rather listen to a classical orchestra or a live band?
Oh, that's a big one because I love both. I'll go for a live band. Yeah, I love classical orchestra, but live bands. I'll swing it slightly to a live band. Yeah, you're gonna ask me? Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, that's really tricky. That I would probably go with a classical orchestra.
Okay, I also like both, but if I had to pick one forever, live bands, hands down.
So you've got to listen to Jedward for the rest of your life.
No, I pick with They were on the stage for Eurovision
Hello.
in town. I thought, oh, hello.
Cool. Right, okay. So the lovely Neil is with us. He's in Ireland. He's going to tell us how he started in Liverpool, went off, come back, what he's doing now. And I'm just going to hand it over to you, Neil. You've got about 30 minutes and then we'll... so tell us all about you, and then Sandra and I will butt in at the same time with probably the same question.
Yeah, just ask me loads of questions. Yeah, but first of all, just as I say hello to Rebecca Stockdale. So she did some work with me recently. She's a boss. She's a boss woman. So big shout out to Rebecca. And you said John Howie's on the line as well. So John's a bit of a local legend as well. So hello, John. Yeah, nice to see you. Yeah, so it's interesting. I appreciate you letting me come on and chat to you both. I've listened to the podcast before and watched it. You know, the funniest one was Katie Roll when you had her on. It was a classic.
I know.
But yeah, it's interesting because obviously I'm from Liverpool originally, but I've lived away for a long time, and I came back a couple of years ago, and since then I've obviously had the pleasure of connecting to you two. But it's just amazing coming back into the city after being away for such a long time, because I lived in New Zealand for 7 years. But even before I left, like I lived all over the UK, and seeing how Liverpool's grown and evolved, it sort of makes me quite proud. You know, and a lot of people who come into the city were friends. So when last December, a girl who used to work for me back in New Zealand was doing a bit of a road trip with her husband, and she came in to see me in Liverpool, and she was blown away. Like, she went down the waterfront, took her down Matthew Street, like St. George's Hall, and like the nightlife. And she was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And took her up to Crosby Beach, because I live up in Crosby. And she's just like, this city is incredible. And, you know, just when you've got friends who've known you for a long time from another country coming in and seeing the place of your birth and your root and giving you that feedback, it's lovely. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So what brought you back to Liverpool then?
Oh God, great question. It's a bit of a mad story, because I had no intention of coming back. And I've noticed that my Scouse accent's come back really strong as well. Otherwise, if I spoke like this back in New Zealand, nobody'd understand me. But I came back May 2021. So at the end of 2020, what happened was my nan got terminally ill, and she passed away. So just before she passed, I came back. It was during full COVID, and it was dead lucky, because New Zealand there was no COVID, and so like if I was somewhere else, there was no way I would have got back to Liverpool. So because it was New Zealand, there was no COVID. So I come back through Singapore, didn't need like any sort of passport or checks or nothing, and got back and got to see her before she passed. But then I couldn't get back into New Zealand. So like what happened was they closed the borders. So I got back, and it's like, okay, well, I'll stay for like about 3 weeks, then I'll go back. Tried to get back. It's like, you can't come in. The next slot in managed isolation is the end of Feb. So I was in Liverpool for 3 months.
Nice.
During full lockdown. So at that point, I started to really think, okay, I'm feeling a little bit homesick here. I didn't realise how much homesick I felt. And then my nan passed away. And then my mum wasn't in too great.
No, of course.
And I'm her only child, and she's not married.
Mm-hmm.
So I got back to New Zealand. I was like, can't really justify being over here, you know. So I came back, and it's been great. It's been hard coming back, because I lived in the mountains, and like my weekends was like going hunting for deer and growing food and being in the mountains and skiing and just living a very, very different life. And coming back into the city took quite the adjustment. So I got back. I was literally back 2 weeks, then moved down to London for work. I had a job sorted before I came back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been quite the adjustment. It's only really now when I'm starting to find my feet, to be honest.
Yeah.
So did you work in London for a bit then, Neil?
Yeah. So I had a job sorted before I came back from New Zealand, but it was interesting because it was still full COVID. So I got the train down to London, got to Euston. It was like June 2021. Yeah. I got to Euston. There was, I think I counted 23 people at rush hour in London Euston.
Yeah.
It was bananas. So I stayed there for a few months, and then I was like, I haven't come back all this way. My ma needs me for me to be in London. So I got the job doing the Port City Innovation Hub, managing that maritime innovation program that I met you, Sandra. So
that's nice. Really.
So all of that happened in such a short space of time, but I really want to give all of the time to your dead cool new thing that you're doing now. How did you get into it, and how did you even hear about it?
I'm glad you asked this because it's quite profound, really. You know, the work and what it's about, because yeah, I've got my professional work, which is the innovation work, and that's what I've been doing in the city. But probably I go back to when I was 27. I'm 45 now. I don't look it, do I? Obviously. Yeah, but when I was 27, I'd split up. I'd been in a relationship for about 5 years. We bought a house together. A girl from Weston. We bought a house in Highton. We split up. And I was like, something's not quite right here. Like with me, I started asking myself like questions, and started to ask me nan loads of questions about like the family, and started to sort of intuit about like, okay, well, why am I the way that I am, and where's it come from? You know, what's going on here? And just ask some really deep, profound questions of myself. So I've been on a journey for quite a long time, doing like a lot of sort of inner work. So I do a lot of like really interested in psychology and spirituality. And what happened was I was sort of I got back in like probably 4 generations from the stories within the family, and I could see there's patterns here that have converted into me and the way that I am, you know, in terms of the way I was operating within myself, that we weren't really, say they weren't healthy, but they weren't helping me to live my best life. And so, you know, cut a long story short, I've done like quite an in-depth study of tarot, you know, tarot cards and stuff.
Yeah.
As a tool. So I'm quite a proficient reader, and through that got connected to this guy. He's sort of quite well known in the field, and he had this methodology where he used drama, where he brings people together in a group. And what happens is the person who's like the person who's they maybe got an issue they want to explore, they'd be part of this group. And what they do is they name their mum and their dad or their grandmother and grandfather, and he played out like a drama. It's called metagenealogy. I remember back in 2019, I phoned, that's my phone, by the way. I phoned,
it's a Scouse thing as well.
Yeah, old school. I phoned my mate who's a yoga teacher. I was in Wellington in the New Zealand capital at the time, and phoned her back and informed me she's a yoga teacher. And I was telling her what I got into, like through the tarot and then through this guy. And she said, I've been seeing this woman, psychotherapist up in the lakes, and I do this thing with her called family constellations. And she told me about it. And then when I looked into it, I was like, wow, I think I've found what I'm looking for, because it's in your family system that a lot of your personality and your character is formed from. Do you know, like if you work in a business, you've got like a business culture and organizational culture with like, it's called the family conscience. And so the family conscience is like a culture within the family that's come back from like, you know, they say normally 4 or 5 generations back. So if we think about it, like for me, my ancestry is from Ireland. Like my great gran basically got pregnant at 16, and she this was in Newry in Northern Ireland, and she got thrown in the workhouse because it was an illegitimate child. And then the consequences of that, and then you had to escape and got to Liverpool, so you're displaced from the land of where you are. And then in Liverpool we've had the Second World War, you know, so within Liverpool and the collective consciousness and the families of Liverpool, especially Bootle, was the second most bombed city outside of London. So within that, we've got a lot of collective like trauma within the city. And then I've been reading a lot of literature around Liverpool in the 80s about how bad that was, because I grew up in that, but I was young. But, you know, Margaret Thatcher, what she was doing to the city in terms of like austerity and almost like cutting it loose. A lot of the poverty, you know, you see a lot of old photographs and footage of Liverpool back in the 80s. It's like, in some ways, it was very, very, very difficult place to live. You know, a lot of Scousers went down to Bournemouth, didn't they, into London for work, because there was just nothing. So all this contributing to like the psyche of the city, you know, and the people in the city. And then we go back to our ancestors. And so on another part of my ancestry, it was the famine. And so they escaped the famine by coming to Liverpool. And so you'd have all these things like scarcity mindsets, like within the consciousness of your family that gets passed down from generation to generation. It's fascinating. So this is what the family constellations does. It really helps bring light to these dynamics within the family system that have been operating under the surface that you might not have an awareness of. So you might be getting into like these patterns of similar relationships with like men or women where they're just not like functional, they're quite toxic, or like you might be getting into like dysfunctional relationships like with men that like they're abusing you somehow, or you know, talking about abuse, a little segue, like there might be like physical abuse or sexual abuse in the family, and it could come from like trauma. It's fascinating, but it's quite heavy. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
But
it does sound heavy.
yeah, but you're taking away the veneer because these are all the things that are operating, but like society that we're in, and media perpetuates life as being a certain way, and sort of takes away all the real stuff that's happening underneath the surface and creates almost like hyper-normalization that life's actually all right, but it's not. You know,
It's what I think if people think, you just said like it's hyper normalization, people think things are normal because it's what they see all the time in their environment. And I think it takes a strong character to say, I know that stops now, it stops with me. But I don't think you can do that always. I think this is where you lead, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you understand why you behave the way you do, or you understand why you have these habits or this ethos, or why you've always done this, you've got a chance, if you wish to change it, or if that's where you're going with it. Is that, yeah? So is it about people helping themselves maybe, or getting an insight into why they do things, or?
Yeah, I think, Sandra, something you've mentioned there is that, like, I'll just touch on, I feel blessed because I started asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know what they don't know, so they won't even approach this work, this family constellations work, in the first place. But it seems like after COVID, a lot of people are asking questions. So what it does is, you start to ask the questions, it leads you to insight. So the responsibility is on you. If you come into a family constellation, which I'll talk about in a bit, is it's giving you the insight and the empowerment for you to recognize and see a pattern and then do something about it. It's not like a magic pill, you take it and then that's it, you're fine. It just empowers you with the gift of insight that you can really feel and can really see and can really act upon, to make the change. Because something, did you say, Helen, or did you say it's under the buck stops? So it's almost like my philosophy. I read something recently where another person was talking about constellation. It's like the buck stops here.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what it's about. It's like you're breaking the pattern and the chain.
The chain, yeah, definitely. Because people always say, oh, well, if this has happened to you, you'll do this, you'll do this, you'll do this. Well, you don't have to at all. You can make your own path, your own journey, but you've got to be very strong and very aware to be in control of your own destiny, haven't you?
I was just about to say, how aware were you, Neil, at the age of 27 to say, well, something's gone wrong here and I need to ask these questions, and then, fast forward a little bit, you've been working on yourself, sort of thing, to then be able to bring it to somebody else is just phenomenal, isn't it? But Leon's listening in and he says Neil is the man.
He is the man, Leon.
So, Neil, what's involved in, so you say you're bringing it to Liverpool. I'd never heard of it when we had the conversation, but it's a cool thing. What sort of people come to you? How does all that side of it work?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm just conscious that there's people on the call who obviously know Neil as the innovation practitioner, and now obviously this is another side of my character, because there's a lot. I do a lot of other like work, that's outside of the professional work. So the family constellations it's been around for about 20 years. It was originated by a guy called Bert Hellinger, which I won't go into too much, but it is still very new. It's like quite niche, and because the type of work that I do, like I'm in innovation, these things often come on my sort of radar before they become mainstream. And so I'm starting to see it now start to seep into the mainstream a lot more. It's a lot more in like people's sort of conversations in a general sense, when you're speaking to different people in different places, especially within therapeutic settings.
Yeah.
So what happens is typically it's done in a workshop setting. So what often happens is you'll get I've been in workshops where there's been 50 people. I was in Ireland about a month ago, and there was 50 people in a year doing this constellation, these series of constellations. But what happens is you typically get 15 to 18 people. You sit in a circle, and you often, you might come with a family member, but often you don't. You come on your own, you come with a friend. And what happens is, as a facilitator, what happens is people work as they want to sort of work with an issue. So they'll put the hand up. So it typically works over 2 days, and like from 9 to 5, and then people do each constellation maybe lasts typically around an hour on average. So I'll just say, who wants to work? Someone will put the hand up, and I'll just say, okay, come. So they'll come and sit next to me, and it's in like a big circle, and then they'll start to talk to me around what they want to work on. So it might be like a relationship pattern, or they've been disconnected from the daughter, or they're adopted, and they've got no sort of understanding really about what was going on within the family for them to be sort of abandoned somehow. That comes up a lot with adoption. Many different things. There might have been abuse, etc. Blah blah blah. And so we have an interview for probably about 20-25 minutes within the group. And then what happens is then I start to develop a hypothesis around what could be going on with this person. So I'm acting almost like I'm tuning into their energy physically. So I'm watching what the facial expressions are doing, what the body's doing. And then I'm listening intently to different words, and I'll sort of allow the conversation to unfold, but also act as a mirror. And so I'm constantly mirroring back and feeding back to them what they're telling me. And so that hypothesis might be, okay, well, I might be seeing a pattern, for example, where they might be a man and they're having problems with relationships with women where they keep sort of giving too much to the relationship, and the woman just pulls away. Joe, it's like a little bit toxic somehow. They smother the other person or want to control the relationship. And so I'll think, okay, straight away I can start to feel into, okay, I'll be asking the question, what was your relationship with like your mum? And I can start to sort of see patterns. So what I'll get them to do is I will then get them to pick somebody within the circle to be a representative of their mum. And so they'll pick that person. They won't even know who that person is. That's just someone who's come to the workshop. So we call them representatives within family constellations. And I'll get the client to go and to get that person and place them somewhere intuitively within that circle. Now, what I'll do is for them, then I will then also get the person to pick someone else who I might feel as part of that hypothesis, who might be related to the dynamic, to pick, say, okay, pick your granddad, so your mum's dad. So then they pick that person and they set them up within the circle. I get them to come and sit back down. And then what we do is we just allow the people who've been selected, the representatives, to just allow what comes up to come up. And so they'll just be standing there for maybe a minute or two. And then what happens is it's something you've got to experience, because it's really magical. That person who's representing the mother will start to feel like emotions, or they'll start to get words come up that comes from like a deeper place that they're not really quite sure, and that you can see them, or they might move, there might be a bit of movement, they might turn to face the father, or they might turn away from the father. And there's a philosophy that I've got around like that everything speaks. So you're, as a facilitator, watching everything what's going on and seeing the dynamic and the interplay between the people who are in the constellation. So it's like a constellation, like a star constellation. It's like, you can imagine like there's groups of people within the circle. And then what happens is I just allow that to start to unfold. And then I start to maybe ask questions. I'll say, okay, representative for mum, what's going on when you turn away from your father? And so what happens is over the course of like an hour, I facilitate this conversation, this dynamic between the representatives, and the client is seeing this play out. Now, it sounds bonkers, because how can two people or more people who you represent know what's going on, because they've only heard an interview for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So there's this concept within family constellations. It's called the knowing field. Mm-hmm. And it's like this it's like a quantum field that forms when people's energies come together in a group. So if when you do professional facilitation, like I've got like with certain groups in corporates and stuff, what you'll find is it creates its own like culture that emerges within the moment of all the collective sort of beliefs and the values of the people in the group. And that happens in the constellation, and they're picking up in the client's energy within the field. And so what happens is the client sees this playing out, and then they can feel it within themselves, the sense and the logic of what they're seeing, because they've never seen it before. And so they get an insight into what the dynamic and the interplay is. Now, it sounds a bit mad just that in and of itself, but when it gets really magical, but really intense and quite heavy at times, is that you can bring in like a great grandmother who you've never met. And it's almost like the essence of that ancestor comes into the constellation, and it just has a completely different energy. And you can start to see, okay, well, they were traumatized by the war. So you can have a conversation with the great-great-grand that you could never do because they were dead. And then you can get a real insight into the dynamic and how her trauma from, say, for example, my great-great-nan being sort of thrown in a warehouse can sort of pass that pattern down, and you can see it. And so I must have done personally touching 100 constellations now, and I am transformed. Now, the first constellation I ever did, I was completely transformed. So I could go to like psychotherapy, for example, for 2 years every week and have this talk with the therapist. But I never got anywhere near scratching the itch of what I did doing one constellation. Like it's profound. But you do one constellation, you don't have to come back the following week. That will do you for like 4 or 5 months. Or I know people who just never come back again because they can see the pattern and so they can change it. So they don't get into the same relationship again. So they break that pattern straight away. Do you know what I mean?
So when you're facilitating, it's like fascinating, isn't it? When you're facilitating all of this,
yeah.
Do you feel like physically drained when you finish? Is it quite draining, or with you being the facilitator, is it sort of like on a brain level, like a professional way, you're tired? Does the person who's maybe, chosen to share whatever they do, are they physically drained, or like, because I could imagine it being quite emotional?
Oh, it's incredibly emotional, but it's like it's bringing stuff up to be processed. It's incredibly emotional. I've had people come and sit down next to me and just start crying straight away.
Oh.
I've set up a representative, and that representative, who doesn't know nothing about the client's family, just completely breaks down straight away because they're picking up on the energy. As a facilitator, what I've found is because it's all around being very present, and it's in the intelligence of the body. We live in a very intellectual society where it's all about words, it's very cerebral. We're in this practice. When you're doing a constellation, you're holding space. It's in the body, it's in the feelings. You're feeling your way through what's going on. So you'll feel very specific sensations in various parts of your body and emotions, and you respond to that rather so much than the words of what are coming up. If anything, there's very limited words being spoken. It's all very much somatic. It's all in the body. So no, I don't feel that drained at the end. It's really interesting.
Isn't it? Absolutely fascinating.
So people who want to, so the workshop, you've already booked it. When is it? And how do people need to know something? Can people just come and have a little look, or do they have to bring an issue, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, so it's going to be the 7th and the 8th of October.
Okay.
Just to give me an opportunity to be able to get the word out because it's so new.
Yeah.
And partly this is why it's been amazing, because obviously I was doing this podcast before I'd booked so it's good timing before I booked the workshop. So the workshop's going to take place, and I live in Crosby, but it's where Crosby Bats is. There's a road that goes down to the beach, and it's called Mencap Cottage. So it's an independent charity.
That's where I wish.
So it's important for me, Helen, because it means that there's an amazing space, that room in the back. It means that I can run a workshop. I can pay them for the room because they're independent. It gives them some money. Yeah. But because it's quite deep work that you're doing, I wanted to be close to the beach. So 5-minute walk, you're on the beach. Yeah. So we have an hour and a half for lunch. People can go for a wander down the beach.
And they've got a gorgeous outside space as well, haven't they? And they've got those gorgeous, beautiful chairs now that have been decorated by all the local artists. So the chairs in there are like works of art. It's just, Mencap is ace. It's just phenomenal, yeah.
Oh, it's brilliant. So it's a perfect location. I might move it in the future, but that's where it is for now. And there's lovely gardens out the back, as you know, Helen, with the veg garden. So it's there. What I will do is, after this podcast, it's probably over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do a series of videos. So what family constellations is, I'll put them on LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff.
We'll share all of these. We'll share all of these.
And the links as well.
Yes, so what family constellations is, what it means to represent. So if you get chosen to be a representative for someone, it's like when these feelings come up, it can be quite like, whoa, what's going on? Like what that means. And then obviously what actually goes on during a constellation workshop. So just to give people some education, people can contact me as well. I've sent you a link to the booking page for the workshop.
Yeah, we're going
to post that. So if anyone contacts me, I can just give them a shout and just sort of talk them through what's going on. It's almost half full already, and I haven't even advertised it yet. So
brilliant, I love it. So is this something that you're looking at, like, moving forward? So it's going to be a massive success on the 7th and 8th of October. It's going to be amazing. Everyone's going to be sharing and talking about it. Is this something that you're going to continue with?
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's had such a profound effect on me, Helen. And it's sort of my opportunity with now being back in the city for me to be able to be of service to the city through doing this family constellations work, because I can see that it's really needed. You know, it's there. People are looking for this. I mean, there's some amazing people doing amazing stuff in the city therapeutically. I think there's a Paul Garrigan, Carly Skelly doing men's and women's work and stuff. But this is definitely ready now to come in, and I will continue doing this. I'll probably do a workshop every month now from now on.
Brilliant. And is it for grown-ups or little people or youths, or is there an age limit? Is there an age that you've got to be before you can go on it?
I'd probably say you need to be an adult. I mean, if you get mature 16-year-olds, but on the workshops, typically you get anywhere from, very rarely see anyone under 21, to be honest, because they don't really ask the questions, but I see them all the way up to 80 years old. So it's a real mix, men and women. Often you get more women, but I'm seeing a lot more men coming in now. And
which is brilliant.
But just due to my connections in the city now, I'm definitely going to see a lot of men coming to the workshops, just doing some of the work on themselves. Yeah, so
great for the men just to be able to say, you know, I'm happy to go on something like that, isn't it? You know, I love that people are now feeling not brave enough, but I don't know, sort of like, you know, to say, oh no, I'm happy to work on myself, and there's this cool thing. And I think it's lovely that you're a man leading it as well. You know, that would give. Sometimes it's, you know, there's lots of female influences in these sorts of things, but I think having a male influence is good for other men to say, oh well, I won't be the only fella in the room, isn't it? You know.
Oh, definitely. Helen, do you often when I do these, like as part of my own professional development, what I'll do is every month I'll go and do I'll do a workshop with another facilitator, like online or in person. So like the last one I did was a woman who was in New Mexico, and I was the only man on the whole workshop, and the one before there was 25 people. I was the only man. So you know, there needs to be more men doing this work for sure, especially with what I've seen. Yeah, with myself even, you know.
Definitely. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's proper, like, really fascinating. It's amazing.
It is fascinating. Go on, Helen.
Apart from your family constellation things, is that going to lead into something new? Is it going to lead into other things around that, you know? Or are you just doing that as sort of like a side? You're going to carry on being you? Being
me, yeah, whatever that means. Do you know what I can see happening here, Helen, is that, like, because I really love the innovation work, I really do. It's like I really love my job and it's the work that I do. You know, about 4 weeks ago, me and Rebecca Stockdale, who's on the call, we did a boot camp for the Baltic Ventures, and it was just boss like. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got, like, again, being of service to the city. You know, you start to see all these positive changes and being part of that. So I want to continue doing the boot camps. There's different opportunities there, but I can see there's going to be a convergence of the family constellations work and the innovation work. So I'll apply the innovation methods to the family constellations. And I can almost say I'm going to be able to evolve it somehow. I'm curious to see how those two worlds converge.
Because you're very experienced, Neil, and you've got a massive skill set. And you know, if you like, you've got your toolbox, haven't you? Your knowledge, and you can apply to whatever you need to support people and that. And that's the benefit of experience and having worn different hats, isn't it? To work with humans and enlighten.
I'm a people's person, Sandra. I love working with people, and for me to be of service, that's what it's about for me. You know,
I totally get that. Fantastic. How innovative. And I like the fact it's here. It sounds very interesting, you know. So we'll share everything. We'll share the links and all the details about it when you do your little videos, and then anyone who watches can catch that and on LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever. Brilliant.
Awesome.
It is fascinating.
Is it the only? It's not in Liverpool, but is it in the UK?
Yeah, so it originated in Germany. So where it came from initially is that Bert Hellinger, he's got a very fascinating story, but it was originally sort of, what I understand, developed to help with reparations with the Holocaust after the World War, and it's sort of growing out from there. So it's massive in Germany, other places in Europe. It's massive in Brazil for some reason, but it's still quite new in the UK. It's definitely growing, but it's definitely global, but it's still not like mainstream yet at all, like it is in Germany, or like Romania is another place that's massive.
It's interesting, isn't it, where things take off? As you know, who adopts something quicker than another country, which nationalities? How cool!
It's quite cool though in the UK that it's sort of going to be kickstarting in Liverpool is quite a cool thing, like, isn't it? You know,
a lot of kickstarts here, I think. Now.
Yeah, well, it's happening in London. So there's other parts, but it is very like there's not many places that are doing it. Ireland's where I am here. Like my teacher Roisin, she's in Dublin. It's definitely, I would say, it's established. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of hats. There's a lot of stuff that's happened in Ireland in the last 200 years, if not longer. So it's definitely well established here. So I draw from that, from my ancestry and from the work here. So
I think it's absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait. And then I think after you've done your first one, you need to come back and tell us all about it.
I will do. Definitely come back. Any opportunity to speak to you too. I'll go ahead.
Oh, look
at a smooth talker.
No, I think it's fascinating. I really do, and I think I love it when it's a new thing. I love it that it's a bit wacky and a bit weird and a bit quirky.
It is,
because I think people in Liverpool adopt weird and quirky and a little bit magical things.
Everyone likes something a bit different, you
know. So I think it's good that it's coming over, and you know, we wish him massive success in it. I think it's going to be ace. And I love that it's going to be a men cap as well, which again sort of says about you as a person, saying that you want to give back because you want to give back to a cool charity that does amazing work with people. And you know, that little bit of room hire that you pay will do so much to the you know, the participants who go there. So it's fab. It's cool. I love it. It's boss.
Thanks, Helen. No, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, nice
amazing.
One.
So we're going to find out a little bit more. So we do have a red face section. Something slightly embarrassing that
I thought I got away with all this stuff.
No. Full on. We have a schedule and everything, don't we? We're slick. So I'm going to go first.
Go on then. I don't think I've got one this week. You go first. Oh yeah, I am. Sorry. I
met with Jace yesterday. You know, Jace Porter. So he's going to come on our show in a couple of weeks. And we had a big conversation, and I said, "Oh, give us." He's working with the school now, so I said, "Give us your email address for the school." I said, "And I'll just email you direct." And he said, "Okay." So the email address is about that long. They're just like ridiculous, aren't they? So I said, "Oh, well, you just type it in, you know." And as he was typing it in, I got a call from Gin Buddy.
Ooh.
Which is Rich. Yeah. So, and he went, and he looked at my phone and he went, someone's trying to ring you. Because I have people in my phone, not with their real names, to like remind me of who they are. So, yeah. So that was my slightly embarrassing moment. What about you, San? You look at
what you just said to remind you of it, because you don't know Rachel's name, Rachel. So you've called her Gin Buddy, right? I'm in Helen's phone as Sandra Scott, which I find alarming. I clocked that the other day.
You are in mine, son.
What's your name, though, isn't it?
I know, but she's just Helen.
But when I met you, you were just Sandra Scott. Now I'd probably have a different name for you.
Everyone calls me as Sandra. Everyone just Sandra Scott. That's it. It's so weird. But I thought, I'm Sandra Scott in here, but you're just Helen in mine. Everyone else has got a last name. So I did have a bit of it's a strange one, and I'll probably cause murder again now. So yesterday, we were talking about something from years ago. I was working with some people up in Prescott, and I'd explained a scenario, a situation I was in years ago, and I said, and this person, I don't know what possessed them to do it, but they served mashed potato with an ice cream scoop and was going on. And then the person said, my mum did that. Quite, you know, exactly. And she said, my mum always did that. My mum served it with an ice. But I went on, prior to her saying this, I'd said a lot more and went in and said, oh, dreadful, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, so then, you know, when you're trying to give yourself out the job, oh, well, it was one of those things from the 70s, you know. Oh, it was horrendous. And I just thought, I don't know the person very well neither. So I thought, why did I say that? That was just stupid, yeah.
So I would only say mashed potato with ice cream scoop in school. Maybe the mum worked in a school.
Well, I didn't say it. I changed the subject as fast as I could. I felt like saying, did you have beans with that as well? But I didn't. No, right, so that was that. It was awful. Awful. So, oh no. So that was that. What about you, Neil?
Sandra, you should have been on stage. You should have been on stage. You cracked me up. There's a few times in the past when you spoke to me and I've just like greased up. Oh, God.
It's unintentional. It's just my life.
That's why it's funnier, because it's unintentional. I've got a little thing in my phone called Scottyisms. When she says these things, because I think I'm going to write a book called Scottyisms. So if you're feeling sad, you just open it and read one of them, and then you'll be
a random page.
My little world I've created for myself, Neil.
Good,
So have you got an embarrassing moment this week?
Well, it is short of this week, but it's probably been like every week for the last 4 weeks. And out, Leon's left the call because me and Leon have got an allotment together. Well, I haven't got it together, but I've got an allotment next to Leon's, and it's sort of helping Leon out. I just haven't been for weeks, like, and I went the other day, and I was like, it's not that I didn't want to go, do you know what I mean? But I've looked, and I don't think Leon's been going that frequently either, because I felt like guilty. I thought, I'm going to go there, and it's just going to be all overgrown, like the
it's been raining non-stop, to be fair.
God. It's wild. It's like the Amazon.
And that's a slight exaggeration, Neil. Well, I had to make you feel better. I've got 4 rows of tomato plants, and I said to Uranus, I said, I haven't even looked at the tomato plants in about 3 weeks. They're up here, so I need to go and see to them.
I thought you were going to say, to make Neil feel better, I've got a letter from Neil.
No, so all right, super fast. And this was horrendous. This was just horrendous. I got an allotment a few years ago, and I was so excited about it. I was so happy. And I was just made up, and I ran out, and I had a half allotment because they're massive and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, off I went. So every day I went and I dug stuff out, and I was doing a meter at a time. And then my mum was sick, and I was helping her and stuff. And I'm all about the bees. So I did like 3 meters by 4 of wildflowers for them to grow and everything. Anyway, the allotment, and I told Leon about this because it was another part of the city, and he said, God, that's terrible. And he came down with clipboards to my allotment, Neil, like this, proper jobs worth. And they were like that. And they went, what's going on here? And I said, that's the wildflowers for the bees. Home and Bargain do them, dead shit, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they were horrified. And all the allotments were like some manicured things off the television. The people cutting the grass with nail scissors, I swear to God. Unbelievable.
That happens.
Perfection. They were going, the gods. So I got the lovely Beverly Hogan to help me. So she and their mate, she went off the garden centre, bought loads of, and hers was all perfect, and she had fruit bushes. And then they sent me a letter, and they said, we're okay with you having help. The helper is not to do more than 50% of the allotments. She done 50%, you've got to do the majority. And I was like, oh my God. So we had to transfer the allotments over to Beverly, or I was going to be evicted. I was literally struck off. It was terrible. So anyway, when I moved here, I dug up the back, and that's how we have it then. So for veg, I thought, it was, and you know, even when I drive up there, I look like that now, and I think that's, but they were awful.
Victor's from an allotment.
The allotment Nazis, yeah, terrible.
But it was like, they were just disgusted with me, and they went, what's going on here? And I went, that's for the bees. And they were just disgusted, honest to God. So when people say allotments, I was like that.
Okay. Shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things.
Have you got Neil?
Yeah, well, I didn't know she was going to be on the call, but Rebecca. Well, let's say a couple. So Rebecca, it's funny because the 2 people I've got like written down are actually on the call, and I didn't know they're going to be on the call. So Rebecca, it's like I did that boot camp with her, and she's boss. Like I really enjoyed working with her.
Yeah.
And I look forward to doing stuff with her again. She's an absolute dynamite. And then Leon, you know, just see Leon's everywhere. You know, he's such a generous human being.
He's been on our show, Leon.
That's he. He's such a generous human being. He's just an asset to the city. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. What about you, Sanu? You shouting out to?
Yeah, I'm giving 2 shout outs. Shout out to Joe Mulrooney, who did the abseil down the cathedral for the Big Help Project from ACSL Solicitors and Mediate Legal. And shout out to Holly Ellison, who's a lovely, lovely girl whose brother I took to China with the ADHD Foundation, and she came and performed at a gala dinner we did. And I've just watched, she went to Lipper, and I've just watched her career go like that. And she's had a single released with 2 DJs, and they played it in Paris to like 70,000 people.
Wow.
She was so excited. So hopefully that's moving for her, because she deserves all the success in the world. Oh, she was on The Voice as well. She went quite far on The Voice too. So she's a lovely girl, and a lovely Joanne as well. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Big shout out to her. Brilliant. I'm going to give a shout out to all of the East Wavertree vets today who made me feel dead welcome. And it was lovely just to be able to have a little hit of the ball and things. So massive shout out to them, and thank you. And if anybody does want to play tennis, who does want to play league tennis, you can go down on a Tuesday and a Friday, and anyone's welcome to go. So yeah, and they do it in a nice way as well. Really, really good, really friendly. What you reading? Book, podcast this week? Neil, have you got one?
What am I reading this week? Oh Jesus. I would say I've got this one here. It's called Belonging by Tucker Turner.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just about to start reading this one. So it's the byline's remembering ourselves home. So it's just around what that belonging means when you're in a place, you know, what that sense of like yourself and your place in your, I don't know, your home, for example. So it's just very relevant for me, being back in that and what that means. Yeah, a bit deep.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, San?
So in fact today I'm downloading the book you recommended to me that you've been going on about to read. So I'll tell everyone about that next week. But this week, the sales, funny enough, you're saying, Leon, the Sales Dojo podcast came out yesterday morning, the new one this week. So I was listening to that, and it was really cool. And Chris on it made a controversial statement about Tony Robbins, which was fine. And I thought it was accurate and everything, and it was just cool. And they were panicking over it. We had a laugh listening to it. I just thought it was really good. So the Sales Dojo podcast, which you can listen to for free, and it's local and it's business related, but it's very interesting anyway. So
good.
That's what I was to yesterday.
Happy days. I've just downloaded The Outliers.
Oh right, okay.
And it's about people's impact that don't realise that they've had the impact.
Is it Malcolm Gladwell?
Could be. I only downloaded it. I've gonna start listening to it as I am gonna have a little mooch now. Yeah, Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, well done.
You'll enjoy that.
Yeah. So that's me one for this one. Brilliant. So massive thank you to Neil for coming on from his jollies. Well, from like being over there. Thank you to Sandra as ever. And do you have a closing quote or mantra that we can close the show with, Neil?
However long you think something's going to take, double it and add 50%.
So true. Yeah, so true. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Neil. And we will see everybody next week.
Thank you so much, ladies. Have a good one. See you later.